everyone, it's CL, and in this video I'm going to be doing another segment where I review book reviews and provide my commentary, my insights, my feedback, and possibly angry or happy emotions. It depends on what I end up reading. So I'm going to do that again because I had a lot of fun. But this time I'm going to read reviews with books I hated or I generally didn't like. And I want to see like if people were on the same page as me or if people were just off in La La Land and really thought this book that I hated blew their minds. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to change my camera angle and we're going to look at these reviews together. Alright folks, so hopefully the heater in the background isn't distracting too much, and hopefully my heavy breathing into the microphone won't distract you too much. I'm holding the microphone pretty close to my face because I want you to be able to hear me. So anyways, this is my Goodreads page and I kind of just filtered it on the books that I've read, and I filtered it by 1 star. So I'm just going to go down through the list and see what we got. Surprisingly, I don't have that many 1-star reviews on my Goodreads. I have about 4, 5, 6. Got some 2, have plenty of 2 stars. All right, so let's go ahead and pick a few 1 stars. Oh my gosh. Let's start with one of the books I loathe and despise. And this book is called Go the F to Sleep. I hated this book. I cannot tell you how much I hated this book. Here's my review. Unfunny, lazy writing. Just goes to show that you don't need to have talent to get something published. And what is the current rating of this book according to Goodreads? 4.26. That's just shameful. Let's see what people had to say. All right, so this person here rated the book 4 stars. And this is one thing that I have noticed whenever I read reviews of this book. People say that the audiobook with Samuel L. Jackson narrating is really funny. And I can see that. I can see how like a voice actor really makes the book come to life and it seems more funny. I can see that. That's understandable. But I did not listen to the audiobook. I read it with my own eyes in a bookstore, and it took like less than 2 minutes and I was just appalled. Alright, so I came across a 1-star review, and this poor person, they had bought it off of Amazon with the intentions to read it to their 4-year-old during bedtime, and I can just imagine the shock they got when they started reading through these pages. I hope they read it beforehand because it does contain profanity like on every page. So after I read this book, I went out to Goodreads and put up my own review. And then I read the rest of other people's reviews because I just couldn't understand why did this get such a high rating. And honestly, when I read through the many reviews that I did, I think the majority of people who bought this book are people, gosh, I might get in trouble for this, are people that don't read regularly. Like, my impression of when I read the reviews on Goodreads, on Amazon, is that these are people that seen it somewhere and just picked it up. Like, these are not people who read regularly. And is that terrible of me to say? Like the thousands of people that read this book are people that don't read regularly? Is that awful of me to say that or to make that assumption? I guess that's why I'm hung up. Like, it wasn't good writing. Like, I have read so many books that have really taken my breath away, whose writing was just so amazing, and it really made me fall into the story, like I was in the story. And in comparison to this book that felt like it was just slapped together in 5 minutes, like, I can't. For me, I can't. That's why I labeled it with 1 star. Is it terrible to say that I don't even remember some of these books? Carol, I remember I read it, but I didn't take anything away from it. Like, it must have not left an impression on me because I don't really remember it too well. Let me see if I left a review for this one. Is this my review or is this somebody else's review? Now, this is a movie, right? Like, I'm so not interested in watching the movie. I'm sure it's wonderful, but no thank you. I already read the book. I like this person's review. This kind of summarizes it for me, what little I remember. As usual, I feel beneath those who classified this as a classic. Once again, I feel classic means no spirit, no passion, just a bunch of words to help the reader feel the pain of the author or characters. Okay, I didn't finish, but I felt 50% of the book was more than enough time for me to care about something. Yes. The characters started off so flat that a steamrolled pancake might have more depth, and the book moved at a pace of a snail. That is true. Especially when a book isn't good, it feels like it goes even slower. Like it's kind of torture. I'm actually surprised that I finished the book, and maybe if I'm reflecting back, maybe it's because I thought maybe it would get better, but it didn't. All right, let's read some 5-star reviews here. All right, so this person's review is, I'm so exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. I'm curious what made them so excited about the book. In that sense, I wish they would have reviewed it better. Like, what did you like? I'm curious, what did you see that I didn't see? All right, so this person says, how can I describe a book like The Price of Salt or Carol? I think The Price of Salt was the original title, right? And then they changed it to Carol. Is that right? If I'm recalling correctly, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. One of the pet peeves I already mentioned that people do is that they summarize the book in their review. Like, they're over summarizing here. I already have the summary up and above. Like, you're just wasting space by this point. Like they say, as a reviewer and someone who is not a fan of romance films or books. Was this book a romance? I would not classify it as a romance. I don't know what it was. I definitely don't think it was a romance. I don't think they were in love. I think it was more of an infatuation. I'm done with this one. Even looking at the reviews makes me bored. Now I'm trying to think if there's a book that I really didn't like that's not on my Goodreads, because I only started Goodreads fairly recently when I started my Booktube channel. Before then I didn't have a Goodreads, and I know there's a lot of books that kind of left me underwhelmed, but maybe it's one of those things that since it didn't impress me, I don't remember them. Like they're not worth remembering. Oh, I know one. I'm curious. I know I read this book. I had thought I put it on my Goodreads, but maybe I didn't. All right, so this book here, Furiously Happy, a funny book about horrible things. Now I recall this book, but I recall it as a book that I really, really didn't like. But now that I'm looking on my Goodreads, I gave it 3 stars. In my review, I listed it as 2.75 stars. I listened to it via audiobook, and in my review of the book, I even mentioned, like, maybe I would have liked it, or I think I would have liked it if I would have read it. And then maybe in that sense, I felt the audiobook was like listening to nails on a chalkboard. Like, I really didn't like the author's voice, and I honestly felt that like a lot of things that she mentioned in her book weren't funny. And I'm not sure if it's not funny because of how it was read in the book, like how it was narrated. And maybe if I would have read it on the page, I could have had a different spin on how I interpreted it in my head, and maybe that would be funnier, that's not even a word, more funny. I don't know. See, I'm even surprised that I gave it 2.75 stars. Even in my review, I wrote I needed to up the speed, or I was worried I'd be too tempted to DNF it. That sounds more of a 1-star review from me, but maybe, it's been a while. Maybe I just don't remember. Let's go ahead and read what people said. All right, so the first 1-star review I came across, it says, DNF, I was so furiously annoyed with this book. If someone is interested in a free copy, you can have mine. All right, so we have a 5-star review. This was, in a word, fantastic. It was funny, like giggly uncontrollably to yourself in the library when other people are trying to get research papers written. Funny. I don't remember it that way. I remembered it as like scatterbrained. And, just because you mention your tits doesn't mean that I'm going to be rolling on the floor laughing just because you mentioned that. Like, no, I guess I just have a different sense of comedy. I mean, what do I think is funny? Kevin Hart's stand-up. I thought Kevin Hart had a lot of funny things in his book. So in one of the reviews, the person that gave it 5 stars was like, this is a book that I can relate to. Now, when I picked up this book, I also felt the same way because it was written in the synopsis, a hysterical, ridiculous book about crippling depression and anxiety. I thought I would absolutely be able to relate to it before I got into it. I was like, oh, they understand how I feel, and they can do like a funny spin on how to make it something to laugh about, And I didn't feel that at all. Like, I felt totally disconnected from this book. I felt totally disconnected from the author. Like, there was nothing I could really relate to. And maybe it was because I really didn't like it. And maybe it was because I listened to the audiobook and I didn't like how it was narrated. I don't know. It could be a multitude of things. Would I give this book another chance? No.
I'm not interested. Will I give the author's books another chance? I know she has written some other books which also got good reviews and people say it's so funny. No, I feel like I'm not going to fall for that trap again. So for me, it's a no-go for this author. If I so happen to pick up a book and I don't realize it's written by this person, then you know what? So be it. But if I recognize the author's name and it's labeled as hysterically funny, I'm gonna steer clear, save my money, save my hold spaces from the library. I'm not gonna do it.
Alright, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please leave me a comment down below if you agree or disagree with anything I said today in this video. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.